Now let us talk on Saint Thomas Aquinas on how he views human laws, natural law, reason, and eternal law. So from the Summa Theologica, Saint Thomas Aquinas believed that law actually pertains to reason. For him, law is that the thing that binds you to act in a particular way. And a human act is governed by reason. St. Thomas Aquinas believed that human acts are supposed to be governed by reason. And reason directs to an end, to a purpose, which he believed to be the first principle in all matters of action. And so let me read to you. He said, law is a rule of measure of acts, whereby man is induced to act or is restrained from acting. Law is derived from the word to bind or ligare, because it binds one to act. Now the rule and measure of human acts is reason, which is the first principle of human acts. And this is evident from what has been stated above, since it belongs to the reason to direct to the end, which is the first principle in all matters of action. Basically, what this means is that law is actually in accordance to reason. And when we talk about reason, reason actually is uh, geared towards the attainment of a telos, the attainment of an end. Okay? And so, law, which is actually supposed to uh, protect the common good in order for the people to attain happiness, is in a way also geared towards the attainment of the telos of a person, which is actually to be happy. And so Saint Thomas Aquinas is saying that law must be in accordance with reason. But the thing is reason competent enough to make laws? The answer is yes. Reason is competent enough to actually make laws. Um, Saint Thomas Aquinas believed that law, he's talking about true law, must be ordered to the common good. So, uh, just like his idea of a good government, which is supposed to be geared towards the attainment of the common good or the protection of the welfare of everyone, Saint Thomas Aquinas also believed that law must also be ordered in order to cater that common good, in order to achieve that common good, and never to the selfish interests of the lawmaker. Making of the law for St. Thomas Aquinas must actually come from the people or anyone acting towards the attainment of the common good of the people. So in a way, St. Thomas Aquinas is recognizing that there could be several sources of law, or there could be several authors of the law. But the most important thing is that since the laws are supposed to govern the people and the law is supposed to promote the common good of the people, then therefore the law must come from the people. And Saint Thomas Aquinas is actually somehow foreshadowing republicanism and even democracy. In modern liberal democracies, you see the emphasis on the people legislating. Even though they are not directly legislating, they elect officers who serve as their representatives in legislation. And so, Saint Thomas Aquinas is actually saying that the uh, law is still recognized as true law, even if it is not directly legislated by the people. It could be legislated by other people. It could be legislated by anyone acting in behalf of the people, serving the common good of the people. So it does not really matter whether it's democracy, whether it's kingship, whether it's aristocracy. But what really matters is that the lawmaker is supposed to reflect the will of the people when it comes to the furtherance of their own common good. Since the law is actually geared towards the common good of the people, then it is only but just for the people to make the law. Let me read this to you coming from Thomas Aquinas. Um, Look at this. Okay. Now, the first principle in practical matters, which are the object of the practical reason, is the last end. And the last end of human life is bliss or happiness. You can find here somehow is echoing once again Aristotle. Consequently, the law must need regard principally the relationship to happiness. Moreover, since every part is ordained to the whole, as imperfect to perfect, and since one man is a part of the perfect community, the law must needs regard properly the relationship to universal happiness. So meaning to say the kind of common good that everybody will be partaking in. And so let me continue. Okay. A law, properly speaking, regards first and foremost the order to the common good. Now, to order anything to the common good belongs either to the whole people or to someone who is the vice regent of the people. And therefore, the making of a law belongs either to the whole people or to the public personage who has care of the whole people. So he could be a king, an aristocrat. Since all other matters, the directing of anything to the end concerns him to whom the end belongs. So Saint Thomas Aquinas recognizes that since the goal of the law is basically to further the end of the people, the ultimate goal of the people, which is basically happiness. So it is only logical to say that the law must come from the people. Or if not directly, it could come from any other personage, Thomas Aquinas will say, as long as they are acting in behalf of the people in furtherance of the common good of the people. And so, St. Thomas Aquinas is saying that reason is competent enough to make laws. So, look at that. The first thing that we said was actually law pertains to reason. And now we're saying that it is indeed reason that is capable of crafting laws. Now, St. Thomas Aquinas also believed that there is a necessity to promulgate the law because the law binds people. And so, in order for it to be truly binding, justly binding to the people must be given the chance to be notified. Otherwise, it would not have binding effect. So, you can see that in a way, St. Thomas Aquinas is foreshadowing the modern way of legislating. Remember the principles of due process. that you have to be notified first. Remember the importance of promulgation when it comes to the enactment of the law, that without which laws are actually not binding, because it is unjust for you to bind the person to follow the mandate of the law if the people doesn't know the law. And so for St. Thomas Aquinas, law, which is an ordinance of reason for the common good, made by him who has care of the community and promulgated. So St. Thomas Aquinas is actually defining what a law is. Let me read this to you. And it is nothing else, he's talking about the law, than ordinance of reason. So law is an ordinance of reason for the common good, made by him who has care of the community and promulgated. So from there, you already have the elements of the law from St. Thomas Aquinas. It comes from human reason, and definitely when we talk about human reason, it comes from the people. Okay? For the common good of the people, it also talks about the goal of the law. What's the goal of the law? It's basically to protect the common good, to promote the common good of the people. And who made the law? It's basically the people who made the law. Or if not the people directly, anyone who has actually care of the community. So it could be any kind of government. It could be monarchy. It could be aristocratic. It could be democratic. And lastly, it has to be promulgated. So generally speaking, that's how St. Thomas Aquinas views what a law should be. And then he moves on and to discuss the natural law. So, is the natural law the same for everyone? The answer is yes. Let me read this to you. The natural law belong to those things to which a man is inclined naturally. Let me repeat that. Natural law belongs to those things to which a man is inclined naturally. And among these, it is proper to man to be inclined to act according to reason. So, what does it mean? Okay, since human beings are actually rational creatures, and rational creatures think. And when they think, they can actually have an access to the things that are naturally occurring within the universe, within them and around them. So with all these naturally occurring things, human reason can understand it, because reason itself is actually a part of nature. And so he defined natural law with that as a man is inclined naturally. So naturally speaking, a man as a person is inclined to do this or to do that, or inclined to be this or to be that. That's a part of natural law for St. Thomas Aquinas. And by the way, St. Thomas Aquinas believes that human beings are naturally good, inherently good. So we are inherently capable of doing good things. And one of these natural things that a human person is actually capable of doing is to act in accordance to reason. And reason itself is capable of understanding nature. Although St. Thomas Aquinas will be very philosophical in his explanation on speculative reason and practical reason, will no longer go there. But the most important thing here is that St. Thomas Aquinas believed that there is natural law. So somehow, St. Thomas Aquinas is saying what Cicero had mentioned hundreds of years ago, saying that true law is in accord to reason, which is also in accordance to nature. Cicero believed that through reason, nature can be understood. St. Thomas Aquinas also in a way is saying that by human reason, nature can be understood. And therefore, we can actually, or we are capable of making good laws in accordance with the natural law. So there you have it. Good laws, according to St. Thomas Aquinas, are in accordance with natural law. And how would we understand the natural law? We can access the natural law, we can understand the natural law through the use of our own human reason. So, St. Thomas Aquinas believed that human laws have to be derived from nature. Let me read this to you. Okay. Somehow, Aquinas is actually echoing St. Augustine here. Wherefore, the force of law depends on the extent of its justice. Now, in human affairs, a thing is said to be just from being right, according to the rule of reason. But the first rule of reason is the law of nature, as is clear from what has been stated. Consequently, every human law has just so much of nature of law as it is derived from the law of nature. But if in any point it deflects from the law of nature, it is no longer a law, but a perversion of the law. So St. Thomas Aquinas believed that any kind of law which is not in accord with reason and nature is not a true law. It is actually the perversion of the law. And St. Thomas Aquinas also mentioned that true law is actually binding in human conscience. Meaning to say, in the depths of the human conscience, it can understand the true law. The depths of a human conscience resonates with the true law. There are two kinds of human laws for St. Thomas Aquinas: the just and the unjust laws. Well, the just laws, as what we have mentioned, it binds the conscience. And it's basically a reflection of the eternal law. Because for St. Thomas Aquinas, natural law is actually a reflection of divine law, of eternal law. And since human reason in crafting the law is used to understand and gain access to nature, and so therefore, the kind of human laws that are crafted in accordance with nature in a way also reflects the divine law or the law of God or the eternal law. And definitely, this is for the common good. The eternal law mandates the common good of the people. St. Thomas Aquinas believes that. So promoting the common good of the people, the peace of the society, social order, is actually a mandate from God for St. Thomas Aquinas. And then the other kind of law, of course, the contrary of a just law, is an unjust law. And an unjust law for St. Thomas Aquinas is contrary to common good. If a law is contrary to common good, then therefore that's not true law, that's not really law. It's not binding. It's not binding. It's contrary to common good. On kingship, St. Thomas Aquinas will basically say that people actually can resist this because this is contrary to the common good. And the maker goes beyond his authority. An unjust law is a kind of law where you have a lawmaker that goes beyond his authority. So St. Thomas Aquinas believes that, there has to be parameters in lawmaking. And a lawmaker, when he or she or a body enacts a law, they must enact the law in accordance to the parameters that were set in crafting those laws. If they go against those parameters, then that law is perverse law. That law is an unjust law. And a law also becomes unjust for St. Thomas Aquinas if it is imposed unequally. So you can see here that again, St. Thomas Aquinas is kind of foreshadowing the modern way of doing legislation. Well, certainly in modern parlance, it violates substantive due process if a particular law is not to promote the common good, right? And it also is not considered to be a valid law if the legislator goes beyond his authority to enact the law. And certainly, if the law does not apply to all equally, then that is an invalid law. In the Philippine Constitution and even in the American Constitution, that is basically against the principle of the equal protection of the law. And for St. Thomas Aquinas, an unjust law is no law at all. It's no law at all. So laws must be just. And St. Thomas Aquinas believes that a law is just if it's for the common good. And if it's reasonable, if it's not arbitrary, if it's not capricious, then that law is valid. If it is in accord with natural law, that is valid law. And ultimately, laws are unjust if they are opposed to the divine law. Lastly, on this matter, on how St. Thomas Aquinas views the law, he believes that human laws are changeable, unlike the eternal laws. The eternal laws are not changeable. And even natural laws are not changeable. And yet, human laws can be changeable. And yet, there are actually very strict parameters if you're going to change the law. St. Thomas Aquinas is of the idea that, there must be a kind of stability. St. Thomas Aquinas is very much geared towards the promotion of social order, stability in the society, and one of the modes through which this is preserved is actually customary laws, or when laws become customs. Okay? Yes, laws could be changed, but we have to be carefully think on how we are going to change the law. Because by changing the law, we're making the society unstable. And if we are doing that, we must be doing it for good reasons. Let me read this to you. Wherefore, according to St. Thomas Aquinas in the Summa Theologica, human law should never be changed unless in some way or other the common will or the commonwealth be compensated according to the extent of the harm done in this respect. Such compensation may arise either from some very great and very evident benefit conferred by the new enactment. So meaning to say, a law could be changed if it will benefit the common good. The law could be changed if it will basically have what do you call this? A benefit that will exceed the harm that it can do. Okay? Because again, St. Thomas Aquinas believed that laws are supposed to be stable. In order for people to follow the law, to follow the mandate of the law, they have to be stable. people will find it very difficult to follow the law if the laws are fluctuating. And so it is very important for St. Thomas Aquinas that laws must be stable. But nevertheless, laws can be changed if it is for the common good. And the benefits of changing the law far outweighs its disadvantages.